discover the hidden power within you. In this deep and transformative video, we explore how Jung, Freud, and Krishnamurti reveal the secrets to mastering your inner shadow. If you feel weighed down by repressed emotions, uncontrollable impulses, or invisible blocks that sabotage your life, this content is for you. Get ready to dive into the human unconscious, understand how your mind hides desires and traumas, and finally learn how to integrate your light and darkness to achieve true emotional freedom and self-awareness. How to identify your shadow, Jung. The impact of repressed desires, Freud. The path to inner liberation, Krishnamurti. This video will stir your emotions and open doors to your true essence. Watch until the end, share your thoughts in the comments, and share it with someone who needs to face their own shadow, who looks outside, dreams, who looks inside, awakens. Carl Jung. Facing the shadow, the part of you you pretend not to see. Imagine a dark room inside you. In that space, you've pushed away all the painful memories, the impulses society condemns, the desires you don't even want to admit you have. That's where your shadow lives. Carl Jung, the father of the inner shadow concept, said, "What you most avoid looking at inside yourself is what most needs your attention." But what exactly is this shadow? The shadow isn't a supernatural monster. It's the sum of everything you've repressed to survive. As a child, you learned what was acceptable and what wasn't. If showing anger made your mother pull away, anger went into the shadow. If being vulnerable made your father laugh, sensitivity went into the shadow. The problem? Everything we push away doesn't disappear. On the contrary, the shadow grows stronger when ignored. It's like a hungry animal locked in a basement. You might forget it's there, until the day it breaks down the door. Freud called this repression. According to him, repressed desires don't die. They show up in twisted ways. Angry outbursts, self-sabotage in relationships, addictions, and even psychosomatic illnesses. Think about it. Have you ever overreacted to something small? Felt jealousy, envy, or unexplained hatred? That was probably your shadow trying to speak to you. Krishnamurti went even further and said true freedom only comes when we stop fighting ourselves. For him, the shadow exists because we live divided. We put on a mask for the world and forget who we really are. Now stop and reflect. What do you criticize most in others? What traits do you most fear admitting you have? What part of yourself would scare you the most to face? These questions aren't comfortable, but they're the first step to mastering your shadow. Jung warned, "You do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Signs that your shadow is taking over your life and how to face it. Have you ever caught yourself reacting in a way that felt not like you? Maybe an explosive anger over something trivial, uncontrollable jealousy you try to justify, or that strange satisfaction in seeing someone fail. Jung called this shadow projection. These are parts of ourselves we've repressed, which then show up in distorted ways. Here's the brutal truth. The shadow doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. On the contrary, the more you try to suppress your unacceptable sides, the more they find disguised ways to show up. Freud said, "The unconscious is timeless and insatiable, and what is repressed always comes back, whether in disturbing dreams, addictions, or self-sabotaging behaviors." Subtly dangerous signs. 1. Constant projection onto others. When we harshly criticize certain behaviors in others, we're often seeing in them something we can't accept in ourselves. It might be irritation at someone being selfish while you suppress your own desire to put your needs first. 2. Self-sabotage. You want success but procrastinate. You want a healthy relationship but keep falling into toxic patterns. This disconnect between what you say you want and what you actually do is a clear sign the shadow is in control. 3. Disturbing dreams and thoughts. The unconscious speaks in symbols. Recurring dreams of being chased, falling, or violent scenes can be expressions of repressed emotions trying to break through. The first step, recognize without judgment. Krishnamurti warns us, pure observation is the highest form of intelligence. The first move to master your shadow is not to fight it, but to observe it. When you notice a dark impulse rising, jealousy, pride, anger, don't repress it. Instead, ask yourself, why does this affect me so much? What inside me is trying to get my attention? This attitude of curiosity creates a space between you and the impulse, a space where you can choose to act consciously, not on the shadow's autopilot. Facing it hurts, but it sets you free. Freud reminds us, the person who does not confront their past is doomed to repeat it. Facing the shadow is uncomfortable. It's like opening a locked room that's been closed for decades and seeing all the dust and grime inside. But it's in that discomfort that freedom begins. Imagine a warrior entering a dark cave armed only with a torch. The shadow isn't a monster to be defeated. It's a part of you that needs to be illuminated. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The path to integrating the shadow, turning weakness into strength. Now that you've identified the signs of your shadow, the deeper challenge arises. How do you integrate it without being controlled by it? Jung warned us, the integration of the shadow is a painful process, but it is the only way to achieve wholeness. The shadow is not to be destroyed or denied, but understood and transformed. Here is the path. 1. Act of courage, radical acceptance. The first step is not aggressive confrontation, but acceptance. Don't confuse this with approval. Acceptance means acknowledging that anger, jealousy, or desire is part of you. It's not about acting on these impulses but bringing them into the light of awareness. Krishnamurti said, "To observe without choosing is the beginning of transformation." When you observe your anger, for example, without labeling it as wrong, it begins to lose its power over you. The constant struggle to be good or right only strengthens the dark side that wants the opposite. Imagine this like being in a dark room. The more you struggle trying to escape the darkness, the more lost you become. But when you light a candle and look around, you begin to understand the space you're in. 2. Shadow work, a conscious dive. Here comes the practical work. Freud introduced psychoanalysis to dig into the unconscious. Jung went further, suggesting shadow work as a practice of self-awareness. Here are some tools. Reflective writing. Ask yourself, what behavior in others irritates me deeply? Often, this reveals something you repress. Write about it without censorship. Inner dialogue. Imagine your shadow as a version of you locked in a room. What would it say if it could speak? This technique, called amplification, lets you hear the parts of yourself that have been ignored. Symbolic activities. Painting, theater, dance. Anything that allows you to express repressed emotions without judgment can help release what's trapped in the unconscious. 3. Transformation, inner strength and freedom. When you begin integrating the shadow, something remarkable happens. What was once a weakness becomes power. Repressed anger can transform into healthy assertiveness. Fear can turn into prudence. Pride into balanced self-esteem. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming whole by embracing both light and darkness. This path requires vigilance. Seeing your shadow once and assuming it's gone is not enough. It's ongoing work, but every time you choose awareness over impulse, you grow stronger. And here's something to reflect on. What would happen if you stopped running from yourself and started listening to the parts you've always tried to silence? Freud, decoding the labyrinth of the unconscious. Sigmund Freud was a pioneer in exploring what lies beneath the surface of the human mind. For him, the shadow was in the repressed unconscious thoughts, desires, and memories that the conscious mind pushes down because they are unacceptable. Freud's central technique was free association, allowing a person to speak without filters so hidden content could emerge spontaneously. He believed that bringing these repressed truths into consciousness was the first step to disarming their destructive effects. Freud's lesson: if you don't confront what's repressed, it will find a way to express itself. In dreams, slips of the tongue, and even psychosomatic illnesses. Repression is a ticking time bomb. Recognition is the disarming. Jung, the shadow as part of the whole. Carl Jung went further. For him, the shadow wasn't just psychological garbage to be cleaned out. It was a vital part of who we are, holding both weaknesses and undeveloped potentials. Jung proposed the process of individuation, integrating light and shadow to become a whole human being. He suggested exercises like the encounter with the shadow in lucid dreams or active imagination, a conscious dialogue with repressed aspects. Jung's lesson: the shadow isn't the enemy. It's like a wounded child inside you. Ignoring it makes it more dangerous, but listening to it can reveal hidden gifts. What you fear facing may be exactly what you need for your growth. Krishnamurti, freedom lies in observation. Krishnamurti offered an even more radical view. For him, the human mind creates the shadow because it's always judging, dividing good and bad, trying to escape pain. He advocated the practice of observing without choice, seeing your own thoughts, desires, and fears without trying to fix or identify with them. This state of pure awareness, without resistance, allows the shadow to naturally dissolve. Krishnamurti's lesson: true transformation doesn't come from trying to tame the shadow, but from total awareness that sees shadow and light as expressions of the same mind. Integration of the three paths. Imagine combining these three masters. Freud teaches you to bring hidden things to light. Jung shows you how to embrace and transform what you find. Krishnamurti invites you to transcend the whole light and shadow game. Together, they offer a complete strategy for anyone seeking not only self-knowledge but liberation from the invisible chains of the psyche. Mastering your shadow, the path to inner freedom. We've reached the deepest point of this journey, the moment to take action. So far, we've explored the nature of the shadow, understood how Freud, Jung, and Krishnamurti decoded it, and recognized the danger of ignoring it. Now it's time to bring all of this into practice, because intellectual understanding alone won't help if you keep living as a captive of the hidden forces within yourself. 1. The courage to look within. The first step to mastering your shadow is also the hardest. Looking at yourself without masks. Ask yourself, what parts of me do I reject or hide from the world? To what memories or desires cause me shame or fear? What patterns do I repeat even though I know they harm me? Exercise. Take a notebook and write, what am I afraid others will discover about me? Don't judge, just write. You'll be surprised by what emerges. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. But transformation begins in that discomfort. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. 2. Facing the pain to regain power. When you start exploring your shadow, you may feel an avalanche of emotions. Anger, sadness, even terror. This is the moment many give up. But here's the hard truth. The pain you feel isn't new. It's always been there, hidden. You're just finally seeing it clearly. Practice. Whenever a strong emotion arises, instead of running from it, take a deep breath and ask, what do you want to show me? Treat the emotion like a child who needs to be heard, not an enemy to fight. Each time you move through this pain, a piece of your previously trapped energy is released. It's like removing bricks from a wall that separated you from a full life. 3. Breaking free from invisible chains. Here comes Krishnamurti's teaching. Freedom isn't about controlling the shadow, but about seeing your mind with total clarity. Daily practice. Set aside 10 minutes to simply observe your thoughts and feelings without trying to change them. Just note, here is fear, here is judgment, here is desire. This pure attention, without resistance, weakens the shadow's power. When you learn to see your thoughts like clouds passing across the sky, you stop identifying with them. You realize you are not the anger, not the fear, not the desire. You are the awareness witnessing it all. 4. The birth of the true self. Mastering the shadow doesn't mean becoming perfect. It means embracing all parts of yourself and living in alignment with your deepest essence. Results: you stop living to please others. Your relationships become more authentic. Do you feel a lightness in body and mind, as if a weight you carried for years has lifted? This is true freedom. not depending on external approval, nor being a prisoner of inner wounds. The final invitation. Imagine, for a moment, the life you could have if you no longer carried the weight of your shadows. Imagine waking up every day without fear of being who you are. This is not an empty promise. It is the destiny of those who choose courage over escape, light over darkness. Now I ask you, are you ready to truly meet yourself? Leave a comment saying, "I choose freedom." If you feel this is the moment to let go of invisible weights. And remember, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the human mind. Like and share with someone you know who carries a heavy shadow. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. Carl Jung.